Hello, Success Family. Welcome to this episode of Conversation with the C Suite, the leadership masterclass for everything that you need to know to make it to the C Suite. And today's topic is one of operations. And here again, I was looking for a female leader that will answer all my questions about ops, including how to get into operations, what do they do in operations, and what more can we learn. And here I am with Mala Ramakrishnan, who's my guest today. She's the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of a company that is extremely focused on customer experience and customers. What a double whammy, right? Mala, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shubha. What an honor for me to be here. Is it Subha or Shubha? Sorry.
Actually, I like to be called as Shubha, and I want to scold my parents for not keeping the name as SH but SU. So it will be great if you can call me Shubha.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shubha. It's such an honor to be featured by you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's jump right in. And so Mala, operations is one of the most crucial office for a company, and mainly for a CEO, right? Because I have a first-hand experience where the CEOs rely largely on the operations officer to decide on many things. So please tell us about the role of a chief operating officer and how it impacts an organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd look at the CEO role as the second in command that does the execution in the organization, right? The CEO usually gets the seat to drive the strategy and get featured in thought leadership. And the CEO is like the arms and legs of the organization, making sure that there's extreme operational efficiency in the organization. The operations role varies based on the size of the company, just like any other C-level function. At its core, I own pretty much all parts of the organization, right? And I ensure there's efficiency in daily operations and that there is alignment with every single part of the organization with the long-term vision of the organization. So in a startup, which is what my specialty is, it's a critical differentiation of having high velocity in operations, right? And velocity means everything for a startup. That's the only advantage we have in some cases because you're up against the giants. And so the operations role is about ensuring throughput and velocity, whether it's research and development or go to market or sales or even customer success. And that's the core part of what I work on.
Nice. Okay. Now, operations like you actually led me into my next question, right? Operations is generally an umbrella term, right? I mean, I have read multiple terminologies that categorize ops into further subgroups, like business operations, IT operations, revenue operations, etc. So please, decode this for us, right? Are there really multiple streams of operations? Do you need to have those multiple streams, and what do you do in each, right? If you can decipher these various substreams for us today.
Yeah, so there are different business processes that underlie the different functions in an organization, right? So if you think about revenue operations, for instance, the goal of revenue ops is to ensure that you stop revenue leak and you're more precise, you deliver precision in revenue prediction.
Yes.
And then you ensure payments are met in time. If you have to send customers to collections, or you want to deal with some customers who are tardy with their payments in a more, a white glove way so that you don't lose them. So those sorts of things is what revenue ops typically deals with, which is very different than IT ops, for instance. IT ops will involve ensuring there's efficiency in maintaining and developing and supporting IT systems. And then business ops typically it's larger organizations where the goal is to harness the maximum throughput and value you can get out of the different assets in your organization. So each of these requires a different set of skills and different people operating in the role, different sets of products you need to use and tools you need to use in order to maximize it. So I usually have teams that operate on each of these areas, and then I'm really managing the throughput and efficiency across it, measuring different metrics in order to measure success, and of course, are the right people in the right seats.
Beautiful. So is it fair to assume that all these eventually roll into the COO? Any ops?
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
so okay.
All ops in a startup, the individual functions itself roll up. Like manage product, engineering, I manage pre-sales, I manage marketing. So all those teams report into me directly. And the CEO is really, responsible for fundraising, for setting the thought leadership and strategy. He's always traveling, my CEO, my co-founder at least. And so he doesn't have the time and the inclination to be involved in the tactics of the daily operations. And that's my strength. So that's how we split the roles.
Very nice, because I didn't know this till today. Because I mean, all along I have been thinking that ops generally means business ops. But now, as I hear more of these terminologies, now it makes sense. So the role of ops is to tie all of these together and to do an execution that spans the entire organization. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. If you don't have something overseeing it, then each unit will be maximizing for efficiency, but then there won't be a long-term vision that they're all tying themselves around. And so that can be a challenge. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, how does operations COO tie into the overall success and goals of a company, right? Because if you're the right hand or the execution arm of the CEO, then pretty much all the metrics that a CEO or a company is held responsible for becomes your responsibility as well. Since operations is usually perceived as an office that tracks, right? I mean, sorry for that. I don't mean to
Yeah.
denigrate the office, but generally, ops is uh, thought of as tracking and making sure people do the execution. What is your really an ops office goals and KRAs?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like the CEO and I are attached at the hip when it comes to our success, right? And have a joint vision of where the organization should go. I am involved in continuously ensuring that the daily operations match those requirements that we need in order to get to the long term goals. Versus what he does is he's continuously fueling the company in terms of the finance to be able to generate revenues. And his sole focus is money, right? Generating revenues, generating VC funding if that's what's needed, or private equity funding, right? Building those relationships. Versus I am just the execution arm, making sure that we deliver the product, get the product market fit. So my role starts with demand generation, honestly, overseeing the MQL to SQL ratio in marketing. So my marketing head reports into me, and that's what we do with that person and the team there. We have a whole team. And then we ensure that we have processes in place to continually drive the product market fit, right? So not only are you generating the right demand, but is the product meeting those requirements? So that ties into the operational efficiency in engineering. Do we have the right engineers? Do we have the right technical talent? Do we have the right architecture in the product? And of course, I hire people to oversee that work. I have a VP of Eng, I have a head of architecture. But then does that all tie in neatly so that the demand generation funnel matches that in order for us to get product market fit? And then what about the revenue ops, right? And in a startup, it's more predicting churn and estimating quarterly revenues so that eventually when we're a bigger company, we can continue to meet our external facing metrics. So I drive the executive team to alignment. So I have a weekly meeting where a management team meeting where I'm driving their metrics and goals. It's a 90-minute session, and people prepare for it. And then we have quarterly goals, and we measure the success of each department with those quarterly goals. Each of the heads of those departments are measured based on those metrics. So I'm the one that they are all accountable to when it comes, end of day. And sometimes the CEO doesn't have time to attend as well, right? So I'm there making sure the whole show is up and running and we are meeting our requirements.
Okay. That reminds me of the role that Sheryl Sandberg held in Facebook. She was doing both COO and she was also responsible for sales.
That's
She
right.
was
Yeah.
responsible for launching new initiatives that would bring or drive revenue. So I can
That's very
totally,
typical, yeah, because we come from different backgrounds to become the head of ops. So my strength is in product and engineering.
right.
And so I was hired actually as the chief product officer, but I took on the operational function because we need efficiency across the organization far beyond just product and engineering. So
Yeah,
it's very typical. You'll find the CEO own one function in addition to the operational efficiency. Yeah,
got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So you own product and ops. Okay,
that's
got it.
right. Yeah, that's my strength.
That's your strength. Okay. So, what other areas of the C suite does operations influence? Like, how do you bring about changes in a product or GTM? It's a very fitting question because you also drive a product, right? So, how do you connect? Like, my question is you're observing certain things in ops. You're observing some data points or leading you to leading you into a strategy change that you need to bring in the product, or you drive into the GTM. How does the two tie? Like, does it tie? How do you take it beyond just numbers into actual changes that impact various functions?
Yeah, there are many frameworks you can use to work through change in an organization. The one that I like to use is called the Entrepreneur Operating System, EOS. It really empowers the individuals who are reporting into you to make those changes. And it also gives visibility into what changes need to be made. That way, it's not directional coming from me saying, revenue is struggling, product needs to fix their show, these are the challenges. It becomes very apparent when you use the framework that these are the challenges because the metrics that we're measuring ourselves against are not being met. And these are it's basically like an OKR system, right? The key results that we need to focus on, we need to change them continuously. And sometimes it may mean that we fire people who are in the low roles, or, we hire new sorts of resources, new kind of talent that we might need. Sometimes it's getting the right systems, licenses we might need in order to change the processes and systems, or changing the goals itself, right? So that we are accountable to the board, but we'll have to go back and think about how do we position those changes. It has to be done in a way that the people don't just quit because they're upset, or it's just not me pointing a finger at them every single day. And so, yeah, it's an interesting and challenging. It's a
Yeah,
political role,
yeah,
and
it's a
I
very
like.
finesse. It's a role the way you need a lot of finesse, uh,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it comes with the experience after you run each of those individual functions, that you know what it's like sitting in the seat being told what to do, and therefore you are able to pull this one off at a higher level.
great. So, what does it take to get into the office of the COO or to become a COO itself? Just alluding to what you have been telling us so far, execution skills is definitely key, right? Hands on.
Yeah.
Does it also require that you understand the various other functions across the organization? You have some experience because it's very difficult to find a person that has touch points in all aspects of if organization, right? So how
Yeah.
can you become a COO, for
Yeah,
example?
the theory is that if you have reached a certain level of leadership in any one function, you can actually lead any other function.
Right.
Right? And that I'm sure you know as at the level that you're at, Shubha, right? That if you become incredibly efficient at leading sales, for instance, and you become, and there's an experiment I was actually part of in another
Really?
startup. When they switched the head of sales to be head of product, we were doing just fine because you're leveraging each other's strength at the level of your team, and then you're executing at the level of your direct reports. So with you should have that confidence when you say I'm going to do something, and with that confidence I was actually CEO of my own startup, and
Mm.
that's what gave me the strength and discovery, saying where do I exactly fit. I found that I was struggling as CEO, in all honesty, in a startup, because I had to be on the road so much and I had children. I was struggling to balance it all, and I realized I make a great number two. And why not? Why shouldn't I
Why
do
not?
it,
Yeah,
right?
why shouldn't?
Yeah, and I really enjoy it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And so, so that's the thing. You need to know if that's a fit for you. Some people don't like being number two, and so if you're going to be constantly craving the CEO's job, you won't be enjoying the role and being good with your function.
Yeah.
So I think it's those things, right? Realizing you can do it, and then figuring out where you want to really fit. And then, of course, I've been working for many years, almost 25 years now. So I've had product, I've had engineering as a VP Eng, I've run marketing, massive organizations. And so those are my strengths, and I know how to do those really well. And if you look at me by DNA, when you see me work, I am a pre-sales engineer by nature, which is how I've managed to enter product and marketing and switch so many roles. So those functions are very easy for me to manage. And so those strengths I pick and do a good job with those. And then I say, okay, now let me think about what else, like customer success, professional services, sales, right? And I hire the right people in order to balance my skill set in order to manage those.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Actually, I like what you said because at a certain leadership level, you've had so much exposure to all the other functions
Yeah.
that leading is not rocket science. It is doable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So so now let me come to like it looks like operations can also be made digital, right? A lot of digitization is possible
Yeah.
in customer success, as I see is happening. So is the case with operations also. Is this true? What are your observations and take on the leveraging AI in operations and digitizing ops in general?
Absolutely. I think we're at a pinnacle at this point where digital transformation has transformed the way we do ops, right? And there are companies you can name, Clary in RevOps, there's ServiceNow in IT Ops. There's just so many, a whole slew of companies to
Correct.
improve operational efficiency. And I think we're at this pinnacle where it's going to take the next shift where AI has to be leveraged and machine learning first has to be the mindset of ops. So there's a whole lot of potential to change the industry with that, where you can actually augment a lot of the ops functionality and maybe replace some of the, manual and repetitive tasks that happen in different parts of the organization. And I'm all for that. Um, that being said, I don't think you can completely replace the operational function with AI, only because there's so much domain knowledge needed. And it's very subjective decision making that happens every single day in every organization. Like if you look at I like to analyze the phase of the company and the phase of the product, right? A phase zero company is a startup with a phase two product, which means they might have some traction,
Right.
right? Versus a phase three company, which might be publicly traded with a phase zero product, a new kind of product you're introducing. Each of those comes with a different set of parameters you need to work with when it comes to marketing, product market fit, engineering efficiency, customer success. And so you need a human, an expert who's been around and has done all of those different functions in different organizations to make that right set of decisions at every step. So that kind of decision making only a human being can do. That's my firm belief. But there is a lot that can be augmented because data driven decisions are really hard for humans to make, especially when you're so time strapped.
Yeah.
That machine learning algorithms and leveraging the data in an infrastructure can make all the difference and change.
True, very true. And what does success look like for a CEO? Like, when you look back, let's say you're completing your tenure as a COO and you're looking at, and you're doing a self analysis. So, if you have to call yourself as job phenomenally done, what would success look like to you?
My success is measured based on the success of the business, right? And so we set goals on a quarterly basis. It's usually, if you think of the success of the business, it's overarching revenue metrics,
Correct.
right? You have to stay alive. It's a capitalistic economy, and you have to pay the bills. You have to pay your employees' bills, right? And so when you look at the OKRs, it breaks down into metrics that would tie into the revenue metrics. But it's usually things that are, every week I measure myself and I measure my team as well on, do we have clarity of mission, right? Does everybody on in the organization understand why they're doing what they're doing and what is your company's mission? And then do we have the right people in the right seats? That can make all the difference. Sometimes we compromise saying we're just scared to, fire somebody or part ways with somebody, and that derails the organization. So every week I check, do we have the right people in the right seats? And then keeping the team on track on all quarterly goals. So if even one team misses a goal, then I think of myself as someone who has not succeeded, because as a leader your goal is to support your organization, right? So when I look back every quarter or every business that I have run, I'm usually trying to see, is the business still alive? Is it, has it been absorbed? Is the product still alive? Are they meeting their revenue goals today? And then that's the measure of overarching success I've had. And then what about the people? Did the people land well? Did they see that as a stepping stone in their own careers? Right? And then, did they actually meet their quarterly earnings and quarterly goals while I was there running the function?
Right. You said it so beautifully, right? I mean, no matter what you do, ultimately, your success, even a product organization, right? If you're
Right.
building a product that doesn't generate revenue, what is the point, even if it is the best product around, right? It
Yeah,
all ties into the revenue numbers, but each of us are coming with an impact in our own way, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, personally, in your career, I mean, what is that one impact that you're extremely proud of, the pinnacle of your career, if I will? It need not
So,
be in ops, it can be in anything in general.
yeah, I don't look at my function as an ops function or product function because I move around so much and play different roles. I think in my current role, I've had a lot of impact and success, right? From the time I've kickstarted the inbound demand generation funnel. Um, and so that's a big deal for a startup to be able to start getting people to collect interest and start coming to you, knocking on their door. and then coming up with the right product in order for us to differentiate ourselves, right? Setting competitive differentiation. Previously, it was just an engineering organization taking direction and building stuff versus saying, hey, what's the market and what's the big impact I can have? So I think those two ways, I measure myself on those two, even in previous organizations. I think those are my strengths. Where am I able to kickstart the demand gen? Are we able to establish the right product in the market so that we can change who's being impacted? Um, and that's a success I have over and over again.
Okay, it's awesome. And any failures, like something where you missed your target or goals in your career, where the impact did not happen.
That happens all the time. So when we set quarterly goals, especially in a startup, and my world is a startup because I've been an entrepreneur so many times and I enjoy it. We set metrics so that we can see how far off are we on it. And I'd say if you hit about 50% of it, you succeed in the first quarter, right? And then gradually you inch it up towards 80%, but there'll always be failures. It's what you make of those failures
Yeah.
and how quickly are you able to turn the business around to continuously improve it.
Yeah.
So do I look at my failures? Absolutely, I do. I think one of the failures that I look at which I learned from a lot was at a company called Cloudera, where I was the head of product and marketing for the cloud business unit. We were late to market compared to Amazon EMR and Azure and Google, and I didn't know at the time when I took on the function. So it really hurt the business. We had to shut the business unit down, and we all had to lose our jobs because of the fact that the as leadership the organization had not seen early enough about the impact of cloud. And this was like 2017, 2018, right, when cloud was still like picking up really fast but not quite sure if you should invest in it when you have a huge on-prem customer base and where you're making a lot of profits. It nuked the business eventually. By the now we're looking at it, and Cloudera had to merge with their worst competition, right? Kill their cloud business unit, re-innovate, and meanwhile Databricks was born. So I think data companies in general have the challenge because the innovation happens so fast. It's so easy to miss the innovation because you're so focused on your go-to-market strategy. And so that's why you need these kind of roles where it's not just a CEO trying to do everything. You have someone who's actually overseeing some of the pitfalls and looking out for you from the business perspective. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So that was our session on ops. Now let's go to our rapid fire session, where we do believe that we need to poke all our leaders a little bit to understand a little bit of the personal side of them. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Um, okay. So, you're off to the moon and you're likely never coming back, and you're allowed to take one thing with you. What will that be?
And either it'll be my new pup or my yoga mat. I guess I'll take
Okay,
my yoga mat. I'd
yoga
probably do a lot of yoga
mat.
and meditate.
Okay. What's your North Star? What drives you? Like, you will not deviate from that.
My North Star is to be fully present and give the very best I can to every person who's in front of me.
Okay. Your USP or brand value, you're not in the room, and your friends and well wishers are all assembled in that room and they're talking about you. What are they likely telling?
That I bring a sense of urgency to everything I do and a sense of importance to everything. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What did young Mala in her 20s really wanted to be? And are you living it now?
I'm not living it yet. I want to be a venture capitalist, funding, maybe 1,000 women in the workplace to start their own companies. Right? I had to start my own companies in order to figure out what that takes, and I'm still
Yeah.
doing that. So that
Wow.
would be the next step for me.
Nice. So, if a bunch of college grads, all exactly same academic skills and grades, are coming to you for a seat in your table, right? What would it take for them to get that seat in terms of soft skills?
I would look for enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is the number one differentiator, right? It's not something you can learn in a college degree. If that person is super motivated and enthusiastic to do their very best, I'll take that person.
Okay. So, a book or a personality or a movie or something that keeps inspiring you, that you go back to again and again and again to sustain that inspiration, what would that be?
So I go back to Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He's my guru. I'm an art of living teacher, and he's the source of common sense, wisdom, love, enlightenment. So if I'm down or if I need support, that's where I turn.
Oh, okay, right. So if you were to do all over this again in terms of your career, what would you definitely do? What would you definitely not do? It could be a advice or it could be whatever, right? Reflection.
Yeah, what would I definitely do? I would definitely do everything I've done. I don't have any regrets. Quitting jobs without backups, right? Starting companies without knowing how to, taking on functions like running product and marketing for a cloud business unit when I had no idea what it took. All of those are good learning and good experience. What I wouldn't do is be so harsh on myself from the parenting perspective. I
Hmm.
always beat myself up that I'm never enough as a mother, holding myself back from taking that business trip or eating that lunch or staying another night. I think your kids turn out fine, and they are actually driven by your purpose. When they see
Perfect.
you driven by your mission, they realize it's okay for them to do the same, and they don't want to be the one holding you back. Yeah.
Absolutely. Any final quotes, parting thoughts, or you want to share about your product or your LinkedIn handle, anything, any message that you want to leave before we wrap the show?
Yeah, I'd say take a risk, right? Take a risk in your career. Take a chance at something that's hard and difficult and that feels like impossible, and only then you grow. And that's what I'm doing right now in my role as the Chief Operating Officer at Kovo.
Okay. Thank you, Mala. I think we did a beautiful job in uncovering what it takes to be the ops office. Thank you for your time, and I hope to meet you soon. And good luck for your dream to become a VC.
Thank you, Shilpa. I really appreciate it.
Bye.